Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be joined today by Beth Hendler-Grunt. She's the founder of Next Great Step, a firm which provides career advising to college students and recent grads to help them land their first job and beyond. Thank you so much for joining us today, Beth.
Thanks so much for having me.
So I really want to get cracking straight away and ask deeper. So I gave the one line about what you do, but exactly how do you do it and how did you grow your business?
Sure. So I launched this business 7 years ago. And actually, my previous background, I was in the high tech sector, I was in corporate consulting. And I saw this problem, especially when I was consulting. We were working with executives and CEOs. And then when it came to hiring, we always talked about how they always wanted to hire some young adults or college grads out of school, but they said, I don't want to do that because I don't have the time to babysit them. They don't understand the scope of the problems that I have. And I'm just going to pass. And likewise, I'm also of the age where I had lots of friends who'd say to me, I don't get it. My kid went to a great school, they have great grades, and they cannot get a job. And kind of the idea came to be of like, well, what if we taught young adults what we teach CEOs, how to have a strategy, how to differentiate themselves, how to really be able to explain your value, and just kind of started it as a test. And that's how Next Great Step was born.
Awesome, awesome. And how did you go about that process of actually building the perfect offer for your students?
That was challenging. We took, a lot of the structure that we had from the consulting world, but we really had to simplify it because students had not seen a lot of these topics. It was almost like an initial, like a mini MBA. But if you were a liberal arts student or an English student and you weren't familiar with kind of like the process of how you step through things in a structured way, so we really simplified it. We tested. I did a lot of focus groups. I had my friends' kids come over in the basement of my house. I did a lot of coaching for free just to really test the process and see how it worked. And I hustled. I did a lot of things. I spoke at public libraries. I spoke at places of worship, anywhere that would be, where there were parents and families who were worried about trying to launch their young adult and trying to get it that they were really interested in that work. And kind of just started doing it one at a time. And one referral led to another. I've done a lot of advertising on social media, different platforms, kind of getting the word out. I pitched myself. I did not have a PR team. I pitched myself to different newspapers, Sirius Radio, and I got lucky. I got lucky with a couple of hits. I got on Sirius Radio about 5 times with a career coaching program that we just hit it off. I've been lucky that I've been quoted in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. So, once kind of that momentum started, that really helped.
Wow, awesome. And so yeah, there's really no avoiding the hustle. I think that's clear to see. You need to work hard and really get yourself out there. Was there
Yeah.
any tactics you found worked better than other tactics? Maybe was it going to those libraries or those focus groups? What was the best way to grow? Was it referrals? What would you recommend?
So it took a lot of trial and error, a lot of trial and error. I mean, I did everything, Facebook ads and different ads in different places, print ads. And what actually has turned into be the best for us, because, you think about where does a 50 to 60-year-old parent hang out? It's not like the way it was when your kids were little and you'd go to the playground at school and you'd meet other parents that way. It's kind of a little bit more disparate once they're in college. There are these parent pages of Facebook groups, but they don't like when you sell things there. They want you to just kind of ask about how dorm decorations are. And what I have found was the best means actually has been Google Ads. Google Ads in the end has been the best method for me to reach parents in a very specific demographic, geographic, financial, educational background. I mean, obviously it's incredible how much, it's almost scary how much Google knows about all of us, but that has been probably the most impactful way for people to find us. And then obviously we have great results. So we have a wonderful referral system as well. But Google Ads has been the number one thing for us of how we've been able to, continue. And I have a very strong social media presence too. So between that, media, but Google Ads was number one.
Awesome. And to dive a bit deeper there, so the Google ads you mentioned, is that something that, for example, a careers coach should start with from the beginning? Or would you say that's something that, once you had your messaging a bit more clear, your product a bit more clear, then it makes sense to move to it? Can you give some tips around the Google ads?
Yeah, no question. I think you need to be really clear. I mean, I made a commitment kind of early on of what my niche would be, because people would say, well, why can't you just do career advising for mid-career adults? Or parents would say, well, can you help me? And I think being focused was probably the best decision. Although at times you feel like you're turning business away, but you cannot be everything to everyone. You just can't. And I think people appreciate when you are really focused and clear, and it actually really helps differentiate my business compared to other career coaches who might just like add on college kids. This is all I do. So, that's our expertise. And I feel like people respect that and come to us for that. So I think having your niche and have a really clear direction helps to have that set first before going into ads. I also had help, by the way. I don't think it's smart to manage your Google ads by yourself. It is a whole different animal of how to manage that. You need someone to really look at your analytics and to look at the campaigns. How do you change the dollar amount? How do they look at the clicks? When it's worth adding more, taking things away. I mean, I highly recommend getting help with. It's a really challenging thing to manage. I got very lucky. I had a young woman who was phenomenal at it, and she's just been able to really manage that. So you're obviously paying for the management, and then you're paying for the ads, but you can't do it alone. You have to get some help. Unless you're a Google expert. And there's a lot of dynamics to that.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely makes sense to get help with the experts and consultations, not just around Google ads, but in all the areas of the business where you kind of want that complementary skill.
If you're listening to this, you're probably trying to build and scale your online business. Am I right? Then we have just the thing for you, and it's free.
We're building Pensight to enable people like you to set up your online store and monetize your knowledge via courses, one-to-one sessions, group coaching, digital products, Q&As, and bundles. It's purpose-built for you with bonus features such as video recordings, private notes for each client, Zapier integration, calendar sync, analytics, and much, much more to handle your scheduling automatically, accept payments, and help you scale your business.
Check it out at pensight.com.
And you also mentioned something interesting, how it's actually the middle-aged parents that you target. They're the buyers and the users are a different demographic. So how do you navigate around that? How does that change your business relative to people who have them as both the same group? And for example, maybe do you ever get situations where the parent pays, but the child isn't interested? And so how do you deal with those situations?
Yes. So this took me a long time to figure out. Really, the parent pays in 95% of the cases because we're not inexpensive. We are programmed. So it's not like a 1 hour coaching. Like you need to commit either for 8 weeks or 12 weeks because it takes that long to figure it out. Interesting, all of my advertising targets parents. And initially, when I first started, I was kind of like half and half, but then I would get kids who would call us and they just kind of wanted like a free resume review, or they thought we were like, $50. It's not $50. It's a lot more than that. So kind of had to make the decision that we're solely targeting parents in the marketing. But the truth is, in order to take any client on, we must speak to the parent and the child. We will never take on a client, even if the parent says, oh, my kid has to do this. We won't do it only if the child is willing and wants it, because it's never a good outcome if they feel forced into it. They have to want it. They have to have struggled in their search, and they have to be ready for the help. So it does become a little complicated. It's a 2-part sale. We either speak with the parent and child separately, or we speak with them together. But ultimately, usually it's the parent paying, but the kid has to be fully committed to wanting it. They can't force them into the program. So, we've learned a lot. We've made some mistakes. We've gotten better at our targeting and our pitch and how we explain it, and understanding that, everybody has to be on the same page. So that's taken a little bit of time.
Yeah, super interesting. It's kind of like almost an enterprise sales approach where there's different stakeholders and they all need to be bought in, right? Exactly. Some people can't make their decisions without their wives getting involved. Probably a similar story there.
Yeah, and I was in enterprise sales years ago in my start of my career, so I really do understand that piece of it.
Yeah, amazing. And you also mentioned you got a really strong social media following, and you're doing some marketing, some other kind of content marketing. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I have made the commitment over time. Actually, what I've done is I've hired interns that have worked for me, or even students who've gone through my program who had some great social media expertise. And I'm like, great, let's see if you want to come work for me. So I've kind of had the ability to help hire and give some real world experience to clients who were trying to, before they launched, work with us. But I'm at the point right now where I'm actually getting ready to launch a book. So I have a marketing assistant who's just been phenomenal in really getting my messaging and imaging and all of that really consistent. And I'm on every platform. I'm on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and on TikTok, which has been another new area for me. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Google My Business. And I do think just having the consistency of presence, it just shows your validity, that you're real, you're current, you stay up to speed. It's not always easy, but I think we've worked through enough material. We really try to schedule things out ahead of time. I use Publer as my scheduling platform, which has been good. And I'm also of the mindset there's a lot of free resources and I try not to pay. So I don't really pay for anything unless I absolutely have to, but I think you can get a lot for free, Canva, whatever free version you can get, max that out. And I think there's a lot of amazing tools out there that you can use. But I do have a very consistent social media schedule. I post 5 times a week. I try to get my videos out there as well. So, it's not always easy, but we make it happen because people are looking.
Awesome. Yeah. And it's great to hear about free tools. That's one of the reasons we built Pensight as well, because we wanted to give creators and experts and educators an opportunity to actually build their business online for free. So yeah, absolutely. Definitely back that cause. And you mentioned a book, which is super exciting. When does someone know that they're ready to release a book? And why did you write it? What is it about? And how are you marketing it?
Great question. I think I was at the point where I had spoken with hundreds of parents, and very smart, well-educated, incredible careers on their own, but they are struggling to give guidance to their young adult child for a couple of reasons. One, they haven't looked for a job in 20 years. 2, that a lot of times their young adult just doesn't want to take their advice. I mean, I'm also the parent of a 22-year-old and a 19-year-old. So I completely understand that. It's not easy when your mom's the career coach either. So I really get it. And I decided, same thing, I had to make a decision. Who am I writing the book for? And I decided to write the book for parents. So it's called The Next Great Step, The Parent's Guide to Launching Your New Grad into a Career. And the way the book is laid out is the first half of the book talks about all the things that parents think are going to happen when they send their kid to school, and that the college promised that all these things would occur in terms of launching them, what kids are actually thinking and expecting, and also what they're afraid of, why it's so hard for them. And then I have the employer perspective, what employers actually really want to see from a young adult coming into the workplace. And the second part of the book actually lays out my simple, structured, step-by-step approach. So if you as a parent want to provide some guidance and, or feed some real advice to your kid as you go along, I am sharing that with parents who want that tool so they can give some good advice and support.
Awesome. And so it sounds like it's essentially condensed all of your learnings, but in a way that's consumable for all. And then how does that fit into kind of like how you view your business? So I guess that's kind of for the people who want more generic advice, and then people obviously want more tailored advice. What's your kind of overview strategy around that?
So my strategy is, look, I wrote the book because I want to be seen as the thought leader in this space. I think I am. I think there's not a lot of people who are really focusing on this demographic. And I think also it really is also a potential lead magnet for my business, because I think parents might go through this and be like, wow, there's a lot here. I can do part of it, but maybe I really need another expert. I need an outside expert to help my kid really go through this. So it is as another means to generate leads for my business. But I think also too, I'm looking to do more speaking engagements. I'm looking to engage on a larger scale. And it could be, working with, it's kind of in all different areas. I could support financial advisors and how they help their clients with estate planning. I could help HR organizations in terms of how do they help their employees, their older employees, to help benefit, their own families and getting them launched. Could be with universities and helping to support the parents that want to be more involved when they send their kids to school. It could be with psychologists or mental health therapists who are trying to say, hey, I have these young adults where there's such a mental health crisis that we have in this country, and there's so much anxiety and other things. But maybe this is, again, another tool to say, I know you're really worried about this. Once you kind of work on yourself, here's the next way you can do that with getting some real simple guidance about how to launch into your next job or career.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. And you've got so much experience now, even from before with your enterprise sales and tech background, and now 7 years, really now you can show yourself as a thought leader. If you could rewind the clock and start from scratch again, but today you were a beginner careers coach, what would be, your first 30-day plan of action?
So if I was to rewind the clock and be a brand new career coach, is that the question?
Yeah, correct.
I don't know if I would change too much. I mean, I'm a pretty methodical person and I don't like to just shoot from the hip because I want to make sure, like, I'm all about the outcome. So I could have taken people on and be like, I got this all figured out, but I like to prove it over and over. So I don't really have regrets. I really tried it out. And we are constantly improving. We am constantly reading. I am constantly listening, and we tweak our material because the market keeps changing or the needs of how you hire. I mean, by the way, a few years ago, there wasn't this like one-way interview hiring. And now that's like the de facto method for some huge companies that they just give you a link. You have to record yourself answering 3 questions. There's no one on the other side. So I feel pretty good about how we built it and how we went there. But I do think it helped that I was in the working world for 20 years prior to doing this. I think there's a maturity that I bring in terms of I was a manager. I hired people. I was an employee. I know what I liked and didn't like. I know what it's like to interview for jobs and get passed over, or interview jobs and you get it. I know how to sell. And I think that's a big piece, not only in terms of running a business as an entrepreneur, but also teaching young adults, how do you sell yourself? And then having this experience where I literally traveled the world consulting with CEOs and their executive teams, I have a really strong sense for what companies are struggling with and what they need. And ultimately, I'm teaching, young adults, how do you solve a problem for a business? Because when you can solve their problem, that's why they want to hire you. Not because of the school you went to or your GPA. I mean, all that's helpful. But like, can you get in their shoes and say, I understand what's really troubling you, and I'm going to help you solve this? That's really appealing to a lot of people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The rest are signals, but really what they're looking for is a solution to their problems.
Absolutely.
100%. To recap, so I think at the start you did some focus groups, you really niched down, you focused on the one group that you really wanted to target, but you went for the high ticket offer, and so you realized that the buyer was somebody else. It's not actually the student, but you always take all stakeholders into account when you're doing the selling. And I think that's a super powerful message. Very quickly before we close off, we like doing this thing called the Pensight Quick Fire 5. So 5 quick questions. I've not warned you, so these are all going to be off the top of your head for sure. First question. If anything, you've already answered this to be fair. If anything, what would you change if you were to start your journey again?
I would have done a better job networking. I don't think I leveraged my university network as much. I mean, I had some friends, but I don't think I understood the value of really connecting with people. I would have, I wish I'd known or was comfortable with networking when I was in my early 20s. I would have done a better job of really making more contacts than I did.
Yeah, absolutely. The second one is, what's one belief that you've changed recently?
That it doesn't matter where you go to school and it doesn't matter what your grades are. And I used to think that was really important too. And even in raising my own kids, I was like, wow, you better get this grade in this class. And I see the kids who have the grades and have the school, and they either are miserable or they're struggling. It doesn't define you. It does not define your success and your ability of what you're capable of.
Definitely. Third one is, who or what are you most grateful for?
I am very grateful for my family and their support of me. And I have a very strong support system. So whether it's my husband, I have 2 boys, my parents, my friends, I feel very, very fortunate. I'll just say this business, I started on my own, but I ended up really growing it with my college roommate, who's also like one of my best friends. And that was just lucky. So I'm very grateful to Lauren Aaron, who's, could not do this without her. So, but I have a really strong support system. Very grateful for that.
Amazing. It makes such a difference having that support system there. The fourth one, what's one book everyone should read?
Hold on, it's on my shelf and I got to turn around because it's 7 Habits. Yeah, it's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I read it in college. I still think it's one of the best books to read.
Definitely. Sean Covey, absolute classic. Also would highly recommend. Final question, one message on a billboard for the most people possible to see. What would your message be?
My message is everybody has a talent. Everybody has a genius or a skill. You just may not be able to figure it out yet, but you have it. And you absolutely are valued and have something to offer, no matter how difficult you think it is or how many rejections you get. Do not give up. You absolutely have something to offer the world, the market, employers, and just keep that in mind that you're special, you're unique, and don't let anybody tell you differently.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That's all we've got time for. Thank you so much for joining me, Beth. It's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Thanks for having me.
People can find you on your Pensight link as well. There'll be all the links there to your social medias, to your books and lead banks and everything. So you can find Beth there. Thanks again for joining.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed this episode.
We'll be releasing every Wednesday, so make sure to
Subscribe
and rate us 5 stars where you're listening to this show to give others a chance to discover it too.